What is going on, everybody? We are finally back with our Friday tier lists. I took a couple of weeks off just so that I could kind of source some new ideas. Give me 1 sec. Let's get some air conditioning in here. It's a little toasty for mid-September. Yeah, I took a couple weeks off to just source some new ideas for some tier lists and focus on getting some other stuff kind of ready to go on the channel. I've had a lot of free time to record just because Dakota's been working overnight and stuff, so I've been streaming very little. So I kind of took that time to kind of get ahead on the backlog a little bit and prepare for my upcoming busy schedule. So that's why you've not seen any of the tier lists specifically, but they are going to be back. We're going to start them weekly. Starting today. Today should be the 25th, I believe, when this actually goes up and live, and I'll make sure here for you. Yeah, today should be the 25th, so you should see them starting today, going forward every Friday as per usual until I run out of ideas again. But just something kind of loose and fun to provide content that maybe you don't have to like sit down and watch. You can watch on the way to work, listen while you're doing something else, etc. So today we are going to be ranking the Pummel Party games. And if you haven't seen Pummel Party, it's basically a Mario Party kind of clone. But it has like online working multiplayer. It's available on at least Steam from what I know, but it might be available on other platforms as well. It's probably the best Mario Party-like game out there. Works phenomenally. We play it a lot on stream. So it's something that I'm familiar with. If you haven't seen it yet, you can check out some of my VODs or just take a quick look at the game. But this is just kind of like a brief overview of what I think of a lot of the mini games that they have. So, and I will preface this with some of the names are very difficult for me to read. So if I pronounce one wrong, or not pronounce one wrong, but say the wrong name, I apologize in advance. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to go ahead and do them in order here. We've got 6 tiers. The best games, the ones you're excited to see when they come up in the queue. Ones that are fun overall, but not great. Games that are meh, bad games, and the last tier is garbage. And actually, while I'm at it, we'll go ahead and move the face cam a little bit out of the way, as always. All right, and let's get going. So first one we have here is Acidicaton. It's all right. I'm probably going to put it in fun overall. I think it's decent. You basically are just throwing like exploding acid canisters around a ring of land, and it destroys part of the land. And you want to blow up the land underneath your opponents to knock them into the acid down below. So pretty simple game, nothing too complex about it. It's pretty easy to pick up and play. And it can get a little chaotic, so it does have some fun in it. But overall, it's not like one of those like mechanically superior games or something crazy cool is going to happen. It's pretty standard run-of-the-mill game. So altitude attack is like bad. I know that they did just revamp it to be a little bit different, so that like there's a top and a bottom now. You can't just like reset the screen over and over. But the controls are kind of finicky. It's not the worst game I've played, but it's pretty not fun to play. And when it comes up, you kind of just want to get it over. Really hard to aim. Controls are super loose. And overall, like it's not super fun. So I'd put it in bad. Dude, Animal Arithmetic. I'm sorry. I know that this is going to be a contentious point. That's a fun game, dude. I am excited when Animal Arithmetic comes up. Basically, a ton of animals will run down the middle of the screen, and you have to count the number of specific combinations that come by. So you might see like it might want you to count tigers riding elephants. You have to count the number of tigers on top of elephants that ride by in this gaggle of animals. It's wonderful. I think it's fun. My friends and I get a pretty good kick out of it when all of a sudden a number is like 5 or 6 off. Like, oh man, how did you see that? It doesn't sound super fun from the way I'm explaining it, but it's one of the best in the pack for sure. This is Barn Brawl. Barn Brawl is pretty decent overall. You basically run around and grab a one-shot shotgun to try and shoot your opponents. Controls are pretty tight overall. It's not too bad. The issue I have with it is that sometimes it feels like the shot should have hit and there's a little bit of latency, or that you'll pick up a gun and it's just not there, which is a known bug with the game that's been in for quite a while. So I think that's definitely something that holds it back, but Barn Brawl, not bad overall. This is Batty Batters. I'm going to put it in meh. I think Batty Batters is a good game, but there's like the ball falls. So basically a baseball falls from the ceiling, and when it lines up with a circle, you swing and you hit the ball. The closer you are to the center of the circle, the more points you earn, basically. It's a good concept, but with latency, it makes it very difficult to get a great swing. So often you're hitting the ball very off or not hitting it at all. Personally, I like the game. I just think that it needs a couple of tweaks, maybe in how the swinging mechanic actually works, or some latency problems to actually reach its full potential. This is bouncing balls. I'll put that one in Met as well. It's basically 4-player Pong. It's a little bit chaotic and kind of fun, but it does feel like sometimes you just get screwed, and it feels a little bad if you lose, because you've got 4 balls coming in all different directions and there's no real way to block it. But overall, it comes up. I'm not too upset, but I'd rather play something else for sure. Breaking blocks is fun overall, I would say. Basically, just a bunch of the floor falls out. It's your standard, the floor is lava style game. You're on a large platform. Some of the pieces of the platform will fall and then come back up, and you want to make sure that you're on one of the safe portions of it. It's a game that you can easily understand, but nothing crazy fun about it. But it's not bad. Bullet Barrage. I actually have to look at Bullet Barrage. Yes. Bullet Barrage is fine. It's a standard shooter game that you see. Basically you're shooting and dodging as per usual. There's a lot of similar games. I'm actually gonna put it down in bad. There's a lot of similar games in the pack to this. There's a lot of flying, shooting, dodging, bullet games. This one's probably one of the worst ones. Just the controls are kind of off, but what are you gonna do? Cannon Circle. I would also probably put in fun overall. It's not quite like you're like, oh, sick, dude, we got Cannon Circle, this rocks. But it is one of the games I'm personally very good at. Basically, cannons line up around a circle and will fire cannonballs, and you just dodge. They go in a straight line every time, so it's not too chaotic if you can understand how a reflex angle works. But it's not bad. It can be, sometimes you can get a little chaotic when there's 17 cannons lining up in the circle. Crown Capture is the next one. I actually I don't know what Crown Capture is. I've never seen Crown Capture. This might be a new game. I know that they just updated the tier list, or updated the actual page for the games a couple of days ago. So potentially this could be a new game in the pack that I've never seen before. I'm gonna leave it in the Met tier for now, but do know that I've never seen this game, so I have nothing to say about it. Daring Dogfight is garbage. It's actually worse than Bullet Barrage. Basically, you're in a plane, you're flying around, and you're shooting at other people. The controls are super janky. Controlling your elevation is very difficult. So instead of flying up and down a lot of the time, you're just gonna do a loop-de-loop to get back kind of to an equal vertical axis. It's not awful, but hitting targets without aim assist is nearly impossible because they're so far away. So I'm not super into Daring Dogfight for sure. Elemental Escalation is probably fun overall. I was kind of tempted to put it in Excited to See, but it's not up there with Animal Arithmetic in my opinion. It's gotten better over the years. It used to be whoever had so basically each player has their own element. They run across the board, and where they walk places down their element. And then whoever has the most of that element when the game ended, that was the winner. That was how it originally worked. And basically only the last 5 seconds mattered, really, because you're just trying to spread as much of your stuff as possible. Now it's accumulative. So for every step you take that places down some of your element, you basically get a point, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. There's also crystals that pop up, so when you run into the crystal, you get an explosion of your element. That helps out a lot. So I definitely think the changes that they've made to this game honestly help it quite a bit. Explosive Exchange is meh. Actually, you know what? It's probably fun overall. It's not a bad game. There's a couple variants of it as well, a couple of different maps. But basically, it's a game of tag where you have a bomb. After a certain amount of time, the bomb explodes, and whoever has the bomb at that point dies. It's a super simple game to understand, but it's not bad. The maps aren't too bad, and the latency doesn't hurt it too much. So, Gift Grab is Excited to See. A lot of people probably don't like Gift Grab either, but basically you stand in front of 3 conveyor belts, left, right, and center, and gifts will come down the line, and you have to move left or right to grab the gifts and move out of the way of coal chunks, basically, because it's Christmas themed. It gets really fast and really chaotic. It lasts for a good chunk of time that you're actually having to quickly swap back and forth. So I honestly think Gift Grab is pretty good. This is grifting gifts. This is garbage. The problem with grifting gifts is that there's only 12 gifts, right? So everyone has, it's basically like a go for the goal style game, or there's a lot of analogies you can use for it, but basically everyone has like their corner, and you're going to the middle, grabbing a gift and bringing it back. If you've played Fall Guys, it's like egg scramble, basically the same thing. But there's only 12 gifts, or there might even be less than that. So you grab a gift, you bring it back. You have 2.5 minutes. So constantly, every goal has 2 to 3 gifts in it, and you're just grabbing one gift from one goal and walking it back to yours. It's basically egg scramble, but with no eggs. Like there's barely any eggs. So you're constantly just running back and forth. There's no obstacles, nothing like that. So you're really just taking the same egg over and over, the same gift over and over from someone else's stockpile and bringing it to yours. It's super boring. It lasts way too long, and there's not enough to do. This one is Laser Leap. Dude, Laser Leap is sick. Basically, rotating lasers move around a platform, and you jump over the lasers so you don't get fried. It's health based now, so instead of dying in 1 hit, you can die in like 3 or 4 hits, which in my opinion makes it a little bit easier to counterplay. Like you can get hit and still come back from it if you have a bad jump or something. So Laser Leap's sick. Magma and Mages is bad. It's not quite garbage, but like it doesn't work very effectively. Basically, you shoot fireballs on a platform. The platform gets smaller over time, and when you get hit by a fireball, you take a considerable amount of knockback. So if you land into the lava outside of the arena, you'll take dot damage over time. It doesn't work super well. Like some of the knockback is crazy, while other times it's not. There's a lot of collision elements, so you'll hit something and just kind of stop, even though you feel like you should have probably gone past it, or the person you hit should have gone past it. And it's also like you move with the left stick and shoot with the right stick, which I mean, I guess kind of makes sense, but it's one of those things where like your character feels strange doing it. Not a huge fan. Miniature Motors is, I'll probably put in fun overall. It's not a bad game by any stretch. However, it's very floaty, a lot of the controls. So you're basically small cars driving around a house obstacle course. The issue I have with it is that the controls, as I said, are floaty. And so you're taking very wide, abrasive turns. Can't turn on a dime. I spin out a lot. Dakota's actually pretty good at Miniature Motors, so it's probably that I'm just bad, but it's not bad. It's a fun game. I just wish it worked a little better for me, at least. Morphing Maze is meh. It's not bad. There's keys hidden throughout the maze, but instead of having to just run through the maze and collect them, every 10-15 seconds the maze will drop down for a second and come back up in a new variation, basically. So the maze is constantly changing where the walls are, so it's a little more tricky to navigate your way around and collect the keys. It's not bad. Again, it needs a little bit something because it is kind of boring. You're just walking around a lot, but getting the last keys at the cup at the end is kind of chaotic for a minute, so it's not too bad. Mortar Mayhem. I'm gonna put Mortar Mayhem in fun overall. Basically, you get a series of like up, down, left, right commands, and then you basically have to move on a grid to avoid hitting a bomb. It's kind of like you're on a Minesweeper grid, and it's changing every time. That's not a great way to explain it, but basically, if it's like up, down, up, you move up one, bunch of bombs go off on every tile but the one you're standing on. Then you go down, bombs go off again, and then you go up again, and the bombs go off again. So you want to remember the pattern between up, down, left, and right that they've taught you or shown you, and that's kind of the gameplay. This is Motor Murder. Honestly, dude, this is bad. Maybe it's meh. You basically are driving around in a car, and you can collect power-ups that have shot types, so you can fire 2, 3, 4, or I think 5 bullets. The more bullets that you have, the faster you fire as well, and you're just shooting at other cars. Nothing crazy about it. Again, it's one of those like floaty car mechanic games where it doesn't feel very tight, and you're not turning very quickly at all, which I know is kind of the aesthetic of a lot of the games in the pack, but it does feel like you don't have a whole lot of control. However, I do think that the shooting is fun, that the power-ups are frequent enough that you feel like you're doing something and getting something, which is kind of what keeps it out of the bad tier, in my opinion. Mystery Maze, I'm going to put in meh. I would actually put this in fun overall, except there's one little thing that kind of keeps it out, in my opinion. Basically, there's like a pathway from one side to the other. and it goes invisible after a second, and you kind of have to remember where the path is and run your way across this invisible bridge of sorts. My only issue with it is that there is only one variation. So there's only one bridge. So every time you play it, you're running the exact same path. Once you've done it 5, 6, 7 times, you know where the path is, and it becomes super easy. If they changed it maybe to have, you know, several different bridges that all kind of look similar, but then like definitely deviate in the invisible part in the middle, it would probably be a lot better just because you have more variety and it makes the game a little more tense. Dude, this is Pack and Pile. That's like, I'm gonna put that in best games, which is the first one we've seen up here. I love Pack and Pile. Basically, you get a bunch of boxes that kind of go back and forth like this, or like a box, and you click where to drop it, and it drops down, kind of like almost like a Tetris style almost, but it's a single box. And then you get another one, and you want to try and drop it in a single line, and it gets faster and faster the closer you get to the top. And you're trying to make a stack all the way to the top. It's super fun. It's very frantic. The last like 2 or 3 boxes are moving so fast across the top. It's just like you hope and pray. So I think it's pretty good. Rock and Rhythm is bad. You basically, it's like Guitar Hero. You get a long string of commands that come across. So it's like A, B, X, up, down, left, right, etc. And you have to click them as they come across like the grid board. In time with the music, but you don't really need the music. It's very Guitar Hero based. If you've ever played Guitar Hero, you're clicking the correct key input at the right time. That's all it is. It's kind of boring. It's super easy to get 100% on, so I'm not loving it. This one is trying to see what the name is. It looks like it's Roto Race potentially, or Rotor Race, something like that. Rocket Race. One of those. You're basically just flying a plane through an obstacle course. Again, super floaty, it's going to stay in bad. Super floaty doesn't turn very well. The up and down are inverted from what it should be. So if you're set to inverted controls, they're not inverted. If you're set to normal controls, it is inverted. Which it's not the same way for Daring Dogfight. So you're literally always going to have one of those games be inverted no matter what, which is very frustrating. But overall, it's just like not super fun, and it doesn't control very well, so that's why it's going in bad games. This one is Rusty Racers. We'll put that in fun overall. You're basically on a small course as some like slot cars, and they're actually not slot cars because they're not in the slot, but you're basically just like small mini cars driving around a course. It's pretty decent. You know, you have to manage your throttle up and down, and sometimes use like a handbrake. It's like the first one to 3 laps wins. It's not super difficult, but I do think it's kind of fun. Sandy Search. This is not a game that we get very often. I will put it into fun overall. I think we've only played it like twice, maybe. Basically, you're in a large sand pit with a vacuum, Luigi's Mansion style, and you kind of suck out a lot of the sand trying to find crystals and other things hidden in there, and you get points for each one that you collect. It's super crazy and frantic. You know what? I might move that up to excited to see. It's crazy and frantic, and there's a lot of different stuff that you can find on there for various points, and so you're always trying to be like, oh, can I get that big diamond before he does? Oh no, I've like, you know, uncovered something, but I can't reach it because it's up in the ceiling. How am I going to get up there? Like, there's a lot of chaos, I guess, is kind of the best way to put it, that goes on, and you're really trying to like frantically beat someone else out. It's a good game. Searing Spotlights, fun overall. Basically, you see yourself for a moment in the middle of the arena. Then everything goes dark, and you just have spotlights that sweep back and forth kind of across. And you, without being able to see where you are, you try to dodge the spotlights because you take like dot damage if you get hit by a spotlight. Super simple, but it's fun. Sharky Swim is probably an excited to see. This is a 1v3 game in which the one person is trying to identify the other 3 players as they swim around a swimming pool. There's a ton of like little rubber ducks kind of going around that are just like NPC AI ducks, and then you control one as well. So you want to try and look like a robot duck while you collect things in the pool, and once you collect 5 of them, then you can make your way to an exit. But the other person tries to say, oh, that's definitely a player and not a robot duck. I'll go attack him. And if you attack a player, you end up eating him. So it's a solid game overall. It's fun. There's some interesting like mental stuff going on with it where you try and like fake someone out, which is really interesting. So I think that's cool. Sidestep Slope is another best game. Basically, you climb up a slope with a bunch of cars and stuff like tumbling down. It's the old like Halo game that everyone used to play, where you'd have like warthogs and wraiths and all that stuff like flying down a slope at you. It's the same exact kind of game, and you just try and see how high up you can get on it. It's wonderful. It's a good game, and I'm always stoked to see it come up in the pool. Slippery Sprint is also an excited to see. Basically, there's a long ice course of jumps and moving platforms. It's a platformer more or less. But you try and race your friends to get to the exit, and eventually you get so good to the point where it's like one little mistake and you're in fourth place. Like, it's kind of difficult once you know what you're doing. So it's definitely fun though. Don't get me wrong. So this one is Snowy Spin, I believe is what it's called. One of my favorite games in the pack. You basically are snowballs running into each other. It's kind of like a physics momentum based game, which I think is super cool. It's also one of my best games as well. I don't know if I've lost its Snowy Spin, but basically you're just trying to knock everybody else off the platform using your snowball to kind of gain mass and gain speed. So super fun. Sorcerer's Sprint is a fun overall game. You are basically a witch on a broomstick flying through an obstacle course. So really all there is, there's like rings to fly through where you collect points, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. It's not really a race as much as it is like don't hit the obstacles and fly through the rings, but it's solid. It's solid. Speedy Sabers is like, I'm probably gonna put in meh. I like Speedy Sabers a lot. Well, you know what? We'll move it up to fun overall. Speedy Sabers is fun overall, exactly as the category would entail. But basically, you get a lightsaber. Or a distinctly different saber that is not a lightsaber for copyright reasons, but you are flying, like not flying, but sprinting extremely fast over this tiny area. So you're just zooming with this saber, trying to chop other people down with it. It's chaotic and fun, although it does feel bad because you are moving so fast. You have basically no control over what you're doing, so it feels a little strange, but it's not bad. Spooky Spikes is not a game that we get very often as well. Spooky Spikes is excited to see. Basically, you have a low row of spikes and a top row of spikes that move towards you, and you either have to duck under the top row or jump over the bottom row. And every time you get hit, you get moved back a little bit, and after probably about 8-10 hits, somewhere in there, you get knocked off the ledge. Really easy game to understand and to pick up. However, by probably like 25 to 30 spikes it starts moving so fast that you're just like, you're flying up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Like it's so quick. And that's where like the real fun happens, is trying to, hang on for that last little bit to outwit your opponent. Strategic Shockwave is fun overall. It's basically Bomberman. You're on a large course, a large arena that has boxes with power-ups, and you have bombs. You place down a bomb and it goes in a straight line, then you can pick up additional power-ups to make the line longer or make it a large circle explosion or all this kind of stuff. And once you get a couple rounds in, it's, all but 4 tiles are being exploded. So there's a whole lot of interesting, oh my gosh, I gotta run over there and hide here and then pick up these 2 power-ups. It's very quick, it's fast-paced, and it's fun. This one is Swift Shooters. I don't love Swift Shooters. I'll probably put it in meh. It's basically like your stereotypical Wii game. Three things will pop up in front of you. They're either targets or duds or like bombs, I think. You shoot a target, you get points. You shoot a bomb, you lose points. It's really all it is. There's multiple rounds of it. You're pretty standard stuff. Dude, Temporal Trails is excited to see. Basically, you are riding around on a scooter of sorts that leaves an electric trail behind you, and the longer you ride, the longer your trail becomes. Even though it does fade at the end, it starts to last longer and longer. If you ride into somebody else's trail, or if you ride into your own trail, you're out. You basically explode. There's also a train that drives down the middle, so if you get hit by the train, you also lose. It's super frantic. It's really quick. And sometimes you can get like these really long, drawn out duels of 2 people just like snaking in and around these trails. It's wonderful. We are getting to the very bottom, so I'm running out of space to see here, but this is Thunderous Trench. I'm going to put that in meh. And now we're officially out of room here, which is hilarious. The problem with Thunderous Trench is that you basically play as Thor. Or what? This is another 1v3 game. So the one player plays as Thor, where he shoots down lightning strikes at tiles. The other three people try and run away from him. So the only way for the Thor character to win is if he kills all three of them, but there's not enough time to just, you probably can only destroy about 50 to 60% of the tiles in the time allotted. So as long as you play right as a runner character, it's really hard for all three of you to lose. You'll probably get one, maybe two of the players, but killing all three is not something that we have done very often, if at all. So it's just kind of one of those things that doesn't feel quite balanced. Next up, we have... I actually can't even see. This is Traffic Theft. Traffic Theft is an excited to see. So basically it's Frogger. You're running back and forth across the street to grab piles of money and bring it back to your stash. The more money you hold, the slower you move, and you're moving along 4 lanes of traffic. So sometimes if you get a fast car, you're doomed. If you take short bursts of, small amounts of money, it works better, but you're losing out on a lot of cash that way. So there's a lot of game theory to be in it, and a lot of opportunity to mess up other people by blocking them into the road and stuff like that. The second to last one we have is Tunneling Tanks, which is like garbage. It's one of the worst games in the pack just because there's nothing you can do. There's basically 2 layers of ground, and all 4 of the tanks start on the top, and you're shooting at the ground to make divots and craters and drop other players down so that they fall down into water. It's really hard to get an angle where you can shoot out beneath somebody without you also falling, because you basically have to shoot directly under where you are to break through. The typical goal I go for is to try and drop us both down and then get someone else to fall into the water, but the game does not work very well and it's not very fun in my opinion. The last one we have here is Word Wars, which I'm going to put in excited to see. You basically will get a word. For instance, let's go with something simple like controller or control, just because they don't use that long of words. But say you get the word control, you have to run over the letters to spell it out. So CONTROL, you just run over them in order and then you get a point. Whoever spells it the fastest gets the point, etc., etc. It's really probably not like the greatest game, but I'm pretty good at it and we have a good time playing it, so I would put it up there. So there you have it. That is going to be all of the mini games here in Pummel Party. Not too many games down at the bottom, out of probably like maybe 40-ish games. You've got 8 that are like really not that fun to come up, and it's not that any of them are horrible necessarily. A couple of them are horrible, but they're just kind of boring or something that's not super fun and immersive to play. But you've got a lot of stuff up at the top in those top 2 categories. That's exciting when it comes up. So let me know down in the comments what your favorite Pummel Party minigame is. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm glad that tier lists are back and we can start doing them on every Friday again. And it's going to do it for us, guys. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you next time.